I grew up in East Germany, and I was 18 when the wall came down, which means that everything collapsed. Overnight, people had no work. Quite a lot of people were unemployed and had to be supported by the government, including me. I didn't actually know what I was going to do with my life. We mixed our own clay, which is unusual. Most potters have their clay delivered already with water mixed in, ready to make pots. We get our clay by the ton load. It is actually much cheaper to do it that way. There was a potter in town where I was born, where I then lived, who I went and visited, and eventually I could do a little practice with her. So I stayed with her for some weeks, and that was that. I said, right, that is the right thing for me. I can create. I can be artistic. I can be covered in clay. I have an excuse of being dirty and mess about. I will be making a mug, and the mug weighs 12 ounces. And then after that, I need to wedge the clay to get the consistency even and get air bubbles out in case there's some air trapped in the clay. In Germany, there is an association of potters, and I just phoned every one of them. And eventually I found somebody who took me on, and I did an apprenticeship for 2 years, and he fired with wood. So I was, right from the beginning, I was introduced to wood firing. Then after my apprenticeship, I worked for other potters around Germany for about a year, and then I thought, I need to go further, I need to go abroad. I went to a pottery market near London, and it's the same thing. I asked every single one, can I be your assistant? And that's what happened with Nick. And Nick said, yeah, well, come and build a kiln with me. Come and, yeah, great. And that's what I did. Now I've weighed the clay. I put it in the middle of the wheel. I get some speed and need to center it for the first time until it goes round or even. Then I open it up, make the base. The next thing is throwing the wall, make it taller. And then I have a throwing rib, which then I shape the pot. In this case, it's going to be a mug. And when I'm happy with the shape, I sponge off the water on the inside and get my cutting tool, cut it off and take it off the wheel carefully and put it on my shelf. To be a professional potter who's making a living out of it, you've got to really love what you do. You've got to be sure that this is what you want to do. And it is at times quite hard work, and it is not a 9-to-5 job. After I've thrown the pot, I need to wait for 1 or 2 days, depending on the weather, before I can work on it again. Now I'm doing, in this case, a mug. That means it needs a handle, and I'm pulling the handle off a lump of clay before I then attach it to the mug. I get the lump of clay and pull the handle on the pot and make sure it's attached very well. I have a selection of stamps which I use to decorate the mug. I market my work by being on Instagram, Facebook, and I do have an Etsy shop, which I stock up as much as I can. I post pictures of my pots that are going to be in the Etsy shop at that specific time and date, and people then they get excited. They all waiting for that day. I don't make anything that can then potentially just sits on a shelf and is looked at. I really don't like that. I want everything to be used that I make. After the finishing of the pot, I need to let it dry. Usually takes 1 or 2 days. Now I am filling the stamps with a glaze that is colored. In this case, it's a glaze that turns black. And then when it's dry, I wipe it off with a sponge. And after that, I will glaze the inside of the pot with a liner glaze, with a white glaze, and clean it up. So the inspiration of my work is nature, growing things, plants, textures of wood, colors of natural things that grow. But also my inspiration comes from what the kiln gives me. Now I'm putting the slip on the outside. A slip is basically a colored clay. I mustn't let the slip go to the inside. I then leave it to dry, and then the pot will be ready to go in the kiln. Because I've been doing this for quite a while now, I know how many mugs I have to make to fill the kiln. I know how many lidded jars I can fit in certain spots. And quite often I make a list of pots that I need, that are missing to fit in the kiln. They get in the kiln just once. So everything that we make is fired from a raw stage, just dried. It makes the overall firing a bit longer, because you have to be really careful. You have to be really careful that they're dry, and also be careful if they're not dry. If you get it hot too quickly, they just explode in the kiln. I will be packing this kiln full of pots at the back and the front, up to the ceiling, up to the arch. It will get bricked up, and then I will fire it for 2 days and 1 night, up to the temperature of 1,300 degrees, entirely with wood. The chemistry is the atmosphere in the kiln and the temperature, which when you fire a wood-fired kiln over and over again, you learn to manipulate it. It takes 3 weeks to make the pots, and it takes another 3 days to glaze the pots. It takes 2 days to pack it, and 2 days to fire it, and 3 days to cool down, and then another 2 days to actually clean up the pots. So it's it's about 5 weeks turnaround. So when the pots come out of the kiln, once they're made, they last forever.